Long Island is an island located just off the northeast coast of the United States in a region within the U.S. state of New York, stretching east-northeast from New York Harbor into the Atlantic Ocean. The island comprises 4 counties: Kings and Queens to the west, then Nassau and Suffolk to the east. However, many people in the New York metropolitan area colloquially use the term Long Island exclusively to refer to the Nassau-Suffolk County area, collectively, which is mainly suburban in character. North of the island is Long Island Sound, across from which lie the states of Connecticut and a small part of Rhode Island, with a census-estimated population of 7,804,968 in 2014, constituting nearly 40% of New York State's population. Long Island is the most populated island in any U.S. state or territory, and the 18th most populous island in the world. Its population density is 5,571 inhabitants per square mile. If Long Island geographically constituted an independent metropolitan statistical area, it would rank 4th most populous in the United States, while if it were a U.S. state, Long Island would rank 13th in population and 1st in population density, both the longest and the largest island in the contiguous United States. Long Island extends 118 miles eastward from New York Harbor to Montauk Point, with a maximum north-to-south distance of 23 miles between Long Island Sound and the Atlantic coast, with a land area of 1,401 square miles. Long Island is the 11th largest island in the United States and the 148th largest island in the world, larger than the 1,214 square miles of the smallest state, Rhode Island. 2 of the New York City metropolitan area's 3 busiest airports, JFK International Airport and LaGuardia Airport, as well as 2 major air traffic control radar facilities, the New York TRACON and the New York ARTCC, are located on the island. 9 bridges and 13 tunnels connect Brooklyn and Queens to the 3 other boroughs of New York City. Ferries connect Suffolk County northward across Long Island Sound to the state of Connecticut. In addition, the Long Island Railroad is the busiest commuter railroad in North America and operates 24/7. History. Early history. At the time of European contact, the Lenape people inhabited the western end of Long Island, and spoke the Muncie dialect of Lenape, one of the Algonquin language family. Giovanni da Verrazzano was the first European to record an encounter with these people, after entering what is now New York Bay in 1524. The eastern portion of the island was inhabited by speakers of the Mohegan-Montauk-Narragansett language group of Algonquin languages. They were part of the Pequot and Narragansett peoples inhabiting what is now Connecticut and Rhode Island. In 1609, the English navigator Henry Hudson explored the harbor and purportedly landed at Coney Island. Adrian Block followed in 1615 and is credited as the first European to determine that both Manhattan and Long Island are islands. Indian land deeds recorded by the Dutch from 1636 state that the Indians referred to Long Island as Suan-Haka. Suan was one of the terms for wampum, and is also translated as loose or scattered, which may refer either to the wampum or to Long Island. The name T-Long-Ie-Land alias Matuax appears in Dutch maps from the 1650s. Later, the English referred to the land as Nassau Island, after the Dutch Prince William of Nassau, Prince of Orange. It is unclear when the name of Nassau Island was discontinued. The very first settlements on Long Island were by settlers from England and its colonies in present-day New England. Lyon Gardner settled nearby Gardiner's Island in 1637. The first settlement on the geographic Long Island itself was on October 21, 1640, when Southold was established by settlers from New Haven, Connecticut. Southampton was settled in the same year. Hempstead followed in 1644, East Hampton in 1648, Huntington in 1653, and Brookhaven in 1655. While the eastern region of Long Island was first settled by English, the western portion of Long Island was settled by the Dutch. Until 1664, the jurisdiction of Long Island was split, roughly at the present border between Nassau County and Suffolk County. The Dutch founded 6 towns in present-day Brooklyn beginning in 1645. These included Brooklyn, Gravesend, Flatlands, Flatbush, New Utrecht, and Bushwick. The Dutch had granted an English settlement in Hempstead, New York in 1644 but, after a boundary dispute, drove out English settlers from the Oyster Bay area. In 1664, the English took over the Dutch colony of New Amsterdam, including all their lands on Long Island, and controlled the 120-mile expanse. The 1664 land patent granted to the Duke of York included all islands in Long Island Sound. The Duke of York held a grudge against Connecticut, as New Haven had hidden 3 of the judges who sentenced the Duke's father, King Charles I, to death in 1649. Settlers throughout Suffolk County pressed to state part of Connecticut, but Governor Sir Edmund Andros threatened to eliminate the settlers' rights to land if they did not yield, which they did by 1676. All of Long Island became part of the province of New York within the Shire of York. Present-day Suffolk County was designated as the East Riding, present-day Brooklyn was part of the West Riding, and present-day Queens and Nassau were part of the larger North Riding. In 1683, Yorkshire was dissolved and the 3 original counties on Long Island were established: Kings, Queens, and Suffolk. 18th and 19th centuries. Early in the American Revolutionary War, the island was captured by the British from General George Washington in the Battle of Long Island, a decisive battle after which Washington narrowly evacuated his troops from Brooklyn Heights under a dense fog. After the British victory on Long Island, many patriots fled, leaving mostly loyalists behind. The island remained a British stronghold until the end of the war in 1783. General Washington based his espionage activities on Long Island. Due to the western part of the island's proximity to the British military headquarters in New York City, the Culper spy ring included agents operating between Setauket and Manhattan. This ring alerted Washington to valuable British secrets, including the treason of Benedict Arnold and a plan to use counterfeiting to induce economic sabotage. Long Island's colonists served both loyalist and patriot causes, with many prominent families divided among both sides. During the occupation, British troops used a number of civilian structures for defense and demanded to be quartered in the homes of civilians. A number of structures from this era remain. Among these are Raynham Hall, the Oyster Bay home of Patriot spy Robert Townsend, and the Caroline Church in Setauket, which contains bullet holes from a skirmish known as the Battle of Setauket. Also in existence is a reconstruction of Brooklyn's old stone house, on the site of the Maryland 400's celebrated last stand during the Battle of Long Island. In the 19th century, Long Island was still mainly rural and devoted to agriculture. The predecessor to the Long Island Railroad began service in 1836 from the South Ferry, Brooklyn, through Brooklyn to Jamaica in Queens. The line was completed to the east end of Long Island in 1844. Competing railroads were built along the South Shore to accommodate travelers from those more populated areas. For the century from 1830 until 1930, total population roughly doubled every 20 years, with more dense development in areas near Manhattan. Several cities were incorporated, such as the city of Brooklyn in Kings County, and Long Island City in Queens. Until the 1883 completion of the Brooklyn Bridge, the only connection between Long Island and the rest of the United States was by boat and ship. As other bridges and tunnels were constructed, areas of the island began to be developed as residential suburbs. first around the railroads that offered commuting into the city. On January 1, 1898, Kings County and portions of Queens were consolidated into the city of Greater New York, abolishing all cities and towns within them. The easternmost 280 square miles of Queens County, which were not part of the consolidation plan, separated from Queens in 1899 to form Nassau County. At the close of the 19th century, wealthy industrialists who made vast fortunes during the Gilded Age began to construct large, baronial, country estates in Nassau County communities, along the north shore of Long Island, favoring the many lots with water views. Proximity to Manhattan attracted such men as J. P. Morgan, William K. Vanderbilt, and Charles Pratt, whose estates led to this area being nicknamed the Gold Coast. This period and the area was immortalized in fiction, such as F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. 20th and 21st centuries Charles Lindbergh lifted off from Roosevelt Field with his Spirit of St. Louis for his historic solo flight to Europe. From the 1920s to the 1940s, Long Island began the transformation from backwoods and farms as developers created numerous suburbs. Numerous branches of the LIR already enabled commuting from the suburbs to the city. Robert Moses engineered various automobile parkway projects to span the island, and developed beaches and state parks for the enjoyment of residents and visitors from the city. Gradually, development also followed these parkways, with various communities springing up along the more traveled routes. After World War II, suburban development increased with incentives under the GI Bill, and Long Island's population skyrocketed, mostly in Nassau County and western Suffolk County. Second and third generation children of immigrants moved out to Long Island to settle in new housing developments built during the post-war boom. Levittown became noted as a suburb, where house construction was simplified to be produced on a large scale. These provided opportunities for GIs returning home to buy houses and start a family. The descendants of late 19th and early 20th century immigrants from southern and eastern Europe, and black migrants from the south, have been followed by more recent ones from Latin America. These have created a diversity on Long Island lacked in other American regions. The population has many ethnic Irish, Jews and Italians, as well as an increasing number of Asians and Hispanics reflecting later migrations. In 1985, the United States Supreme Court ruled in United States v. Maine that Long Island was not an island for legal purposes. By the start of the 21st century, a number of Long Island communities had successfully converted their assets from industrial uses to post-industrial roles. Brooklyn reversed decades of population decline and factory closings to resurface as a globally renowned cultural and intellectual hotbed. Gentrification has affected much of Brooklyn and a portion of Queens, relocating a sizable swath of New York City's population. On eastern Long Island, such villages as Port Jefferson, Patchogue, and Riverhead have been changed from inactive shipbuilding and mill towns into tourist-central commercial centers with cultural attractions. A flood occurred on August 13, 2014 in Long Island after record-setting rainfall deposited 2 months' worth of precipitation on the area.